Welcome to the 9th episode of Generation Gap Book Reviews. I'm Christy, the mom.
I'm Lena, the daughter.
In this episode, we're going to be reviewing the book Thr3e by Ted Dekker, which is what kind of book?
It's a Christian suspense
Thriller. Yeah.
I feel like it's not so much as suspenseful, but thriller more.
Yeah, I would be hard pressed to explain the difference between suspense and thriller.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Thriller makes you feel thrills, and suspenseful is full of suspense. Sorry.
that clears it up. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is another book that I first read quite a few years ago, not as far back as the previous episode's book. In fact, I was given this book by my mom to read. Like, she suggested it to me when I was 20 something, and I actually remember she lent me her copy, and I remember starting it. And this was during a time that I really wasn't reading that much anyway. I had a little baby, and not you, your brother.
I know, obviously not. You were 20.
20 something anyway. And I read the first chapter or so and just didn't really get into it, and I put it down, and I didn't get back to it for a while. I don't even remember what brought me back to it, but then I tried it again and, got a little further than that first chapter and gotten to where it starts to get exciting, and then I finished it and really, really liked it. I have considered it one of my favorite books for then most of my adult life. And you
recommended it to me. Or, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of like sometimes when I see I see books in the house, and I'm like, this cover looks interesting, and then I ask you about it, and then that's kind of one of the ways I get recommendations from you, is by like asking about books in the house sometimes. I also started reading it to my friend.
To your friend?
To my friend, yeah. I think we've only gotten like 2 chapters, and I think we both forgot. She probably forgot about it. We haven't really had time to read it again. That's just
You're
a
reading
side.
it to her?
To her, yeah.
Like
Out loud.
over your phone or something?
Well, it started when she was at our house for VBS. Yeah. And then I brought it to church.
That was a long time ago.
Then I brought it to church like one time, and I think I
Most
read it
books
a little bit.
cannot hold up to being read a chapter every 6 months.
I
Just
know. I will get back to it. I just forgot about it for a while, and plus it's like in the back of my bookshelf, so because I only have like one little cubby bookshelf. Anyway, long story short, good book. That about wraps it up, folks.
So Lena,
Yes.
what is this book about?
It's okay. We're getting intense here. Sorry.
We're getting intense here by talking about what the book's about. Oh my word. That was a fun pun.
I'm just so fun to be around,
I really don't know what's going on anymore. I'm just saying.
I'm mentally prepping myself.
To give us the synopsis?
Yes. So Kevin Parson is our main character here, right? So he's in seminary, and he's driving home, and he gets a phone call from who, you may wonder? This man.
I do wonder who, yes.
This man, Slater, and he threatens him. He says, "You have 3 minutes to confess your sin to the world, and then refuse, and the car you're driving will blow sky high." And so, yeah. So there's like a bunch of like nerves and stuff, and
Hold on. There's a bunch of nerves?
There's like a panic. Kevin's like panicking.
Okay.
And
is this a synopsis, or are you just telling us the first chapter?
No, this is the synopsis. But so basically he gets out, and then
yes, he survives. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a book, would we?
It'd be a novella.
I think it'd be a novelette.
That's true. Anyway, and then Slater keeps threatening, and then the police get involved, and then what happens next? I don't know. You'll have to read the book.
You're great at this. I'm just saying.
I ramble a lot, so it's hard to follow me. I'm sorry, people.
Okay, so Slater
Yeah.
continually presses him to confess his sins, which
Yes.
Kevin is saying, I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
or these attacks will only get worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good summary. I literally could have just said
It's okay. It's all right.
that. Maybe my way is fun to some people. I don't know.
What'd you like about the book?
It was it was intense, and I like intenseness.
Intensity?
Intensity. That's the word. Thank you. And the characters are really interesting. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to really wrap what I liked about it in a tight little bow. Plot twist. Plot twist. That's probably
Plot twist, plot twist, plot twist, plot twist. Like it's like a blinking light. Plot twist, plot twist.
the plot twist is that actually what kicked me in the butt.
So until the plot twist, which is not far from the end of the book, you were just sort of
No, I liked
limping
it.
along.
The plot twist made me go, oh, I love this. You know, just kind of kicked it
Kicked it up a notch.
Whoa. Okay, sorry, rambling again. I think that's all I really have to. That's all I can really say. So, what did you like about the book?
Well, it is very intense. It is very exciting. It delves into psychology, philosophy actually quite a bit, because the whole idea of Kevin trying to figure out what he even needs to confess, and as he's trying to figure out what sin Slater wants him to confess, you kind of get more and more glimpses of his background, and it's pretty rough.
His lore keeps getting unlocked.
He's had a pretty rough life. He had a rough childhood, let's say that. So Ted Dekker, who I know that we just did a Frank Peretti book, but even if we hadn't, I would mention Frank Peretti because a lot of people put them in a similar camp.
Yeah.
Christian thrillers. I've read some of Ted Dekker's other stuff. Not to be mean, but I don't really think I don't think his style really holds up to Frank Peretti's, but he does have some good books.
I think he's more popular or famous than Frank.
But I don't know that I really would classify Ted Dekker as a Christian author. I think a lot of his books might contain religion or spirituality, but not necessarily Christianity. I think he may be more of an author who is a Christian and he writes from a Christian worldview, but that is not always what he's going for in his books. This one is definitely more. It sheds a lot of light on the nature of man, or not man, of good versus evil.
Oh yeah.
It is a thriller, but it also has a lot of depth and philosophy, slow parts where things are discussed, where nature of man is discussed, and I think that can slow the book down for people who are just looking for a thriller. I thought it was good because, especially considering that one of the main ways that the nature of good and evil is discussed is Kevin talking to his professor at seminary, and that professor is one of my favorite characters in the book.
Oh yeah.
So I don't necessarily mind all of that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I read this book almost a year ago. Well, actually, a year ago, because I read it in March. Wow, that's crazy.
Did you read it right after you read The Oath?
Nope,
Or
March.
before, I mean?
Oath was in May.
And this was when?
March.
Well, that's not
Early
that far
March.
apart, though.
Well, May was late May. The Oath was in late May, and then Thr3e was like early March. Was when I finished it, at least. Anyway.
Now, going back to what you said about the big twist, and this is one of those books that definitely has a big twist, and once you've read it, you might wish you could forget it so you could reread it. One of the small kind of gripes I had about the book was I felt like the symbolism regarding the big twist was a little bit too in your face. I would compare it to a movie that you haven't seen, so there's probably not much point comparing.
It might as well though.
Well, I don't want to spoil the movie. I don't want to spoil the movie for you to explain it. So the movie The Sixth Sense, have you heard of it at least?
Nope. I can't say I have.
Well, that is a movie with a big twist. I mean, a big twist. Okay.
Okay.
And if you don't watch it soon, you'll probably be spoiled on it because people don't care about not spoiling things that are old.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty old.
It's kind of sad.
Throughout the movie, though, there is the color red is tied in with things related to the big twist.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't been told about it, you may never notice it.
Oh.
I mean, I've seen the movie a couple of times, and I still don't really. I mean, the first time I ever watched it, I definitely did not notice that. But it's there. But if you aren't aware of it in advance, you probably wouldn't pick it out yourself.
Yeah, it's got some pretty interesting it's like the
Hold
kind
on,
of.
let me get back to what I'm
Sorry.
saying. With this book, though, the symbolism regarding the big twist is super. It's not subtle at all, and I feel like it could have been more subtle. Not that I say that. I did not figure out the big twist before it came.
Mm-mm.
I have a feeling there are people who would, but I definitely did not. But that's not really saying much because I've never been one who really predicts that kind of stuff very easily. So, I can't tell you if that means anything.
I like the foreshadowing. It's kind of like a book with a twist that like you can go back and be like, oh my gosh, this was foreshadowing,
And I
all
have
stuff.
See, because of the big twist and how it's kind of hard to you can't you can't forget it. Unremember, yeah, because that's how you say that.
Unalive.
I haven't this is not a book I had much reason to reread, but I did reread this within the last few years, and I didn't know if I would enjoy it as much because I had the knowledge that I didn't otherwise have, but it was interesting to read it and being able to see the build up to the big twist and see the symbolism more. Well, symbolism again is not subtle, but to know to see the foreshadowing like you're talking about. So maybe you'll read it again someday and do the same.
Yeah, I hope to do that. Let's call the big twist Greg because it's kind of funny because we keep calling it the big twist. So let's just call it Greg.
Call it Greg.
I don't know. This is the first thing that popped in my head.
That reminds me of naming your cow like Steve, but okay.
Your cow?
Cowlick.
Oh, Cowlick. Sorry.
Call back to one of our early episodes of this. Oh, our very first episode.
Book Scavenger was our first.
Anyway, is there anything you didn't like about it?
When I read it, in a physical copy, the print was small, so that kind of bothered me because I can't read.
Well, that has nothing to do with the story.
I think I need glasses again.
I think you do.
I think so. Anyway, it was really slow for a lot of the beginning. And there was a lot of big words, which big words are good. I just thought there were a lot of them. I'm not 10, guys, I promise. But it was a lot, especially when I was reading out loud. I was like, man, I don't know how to pronounce this stuff. But that was also, I guess, I do read out loud to myself. So I was like, I would feel like I would be out of breath by a page because of all the reading and stuff. But anyway, I feel like we're getting so off topic.
Yes, I would say so.
Squirrel, sorry.
Especially considering that what you're talking about is still the formatting of the book itself and not.
Yeah.
It's more about the formatting of the book. I mean, you did talk about bigger words and how slow it is, and that's. I mean, and I already merely mentioned the one main thing I not that I didn't like, but that if I would have a complaint, it's about the symbolism being too in your face.
Yeah.
And the fact that like I said early on, started the book and then didn't get back to it, didn't continue on with it for a long time because of the first chapter. Oh, yeah. Although, to be fair, that was a time when I had a hard time even having time to read, so that could have had more to do with it than anything.
Long chapters. That's a formatting issue too. But okay, other people will get this. That short chapters are quicker to read, because when you have short chapters, I feel like it also urges you to read more when you're reading, because you could be like, oh, one more chapter, and then it's a really short one, you're like, oh, one more chapter. But a long one, you don't want to stop in the middle, but sometimes you gotta take little short breaks. So it's really difficult.
I could not tell you. I would never have remembered how long the chapters were.
I don't know.
Somehow that bothered you, huh?
It's one of those things that I don't know.
But yes, I mean, I get what you're saying about chapter length. I mean, there are books that I've read where the chapters are so short. I'm just like, what am I even? I mean, is there even anything to this story?
Inheritance games, I love their short chapters. Their short chapters are perfect. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Sorry. Off topic again.
Anywho, what How many stars would you give this book out of 5?
I think I would say 5. Especially, I think it originally would have been a 4 probably, but then Greg. Uh,
Greg. Greg slapped her. I mean, just across the face.
he
Full
he
on
threatened me. He's like, if you don't give me 5 stars. Anyway, what'd you rate it?
4.5.
4.5.
Which is interesting because again, I used to like throughout the years before I read it again more recently. When I would be on a website or whatever, and it would say, "What are your favorite books?" and I would always say The Oath and 3. Those were just the two that I would list as my favorite books. And 4.5 is not what I would think of as a book that I would consider my favorite, one of my favorites. But I think it's mostly just because it can be a little slow, have a little depth to your, a little depth to the slows down the suspenseful aspect of it. But I still really like it, and I'm sure I'll read it again at some point.
So, Mother.
Yes, daughter.
Who do you recommend this to?
Well, I really would recommend this to anybody who enjoys suspenseful novels, mystery, philosophical kind of things. It probably helps if you are okay with Christianity. I think if you are the kind of person who really doesn't want to read Christian
stuff,
content, there is definitely a lot of that. That's what provides the depth and the slowness to this book. So I wouldn't recommend it to those people. But other than that, people that enjoy that like suspense and thrillers and
Christianity,
theology.
What
about you?
I feel like ages, because that's what I think about mostly.
I know that is usually what you go to first.
That's my go-to.
So you're 14.
I'm 14.
And you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
And you read it when you were more like 13.
Yeah.
Like just the edge of being 13. Like
a month before I turned
14. So still about 14.
But I mean, I enjoyed it.
Do you think it takes a special kind of young teenager to enjoy it though?
Yeah. Because I mean, with the big words, like again, going back to the big words, it's unless you really love reading books and like looking up the definitions as you're reading it.
Did you look up definitions as you read it, or did you just keep going?
Maybe not. Maybe a few times, but when I look up definitions, it pulls me out of the story.
Right.
So.
That's why I asked,
but
because I didn't really think you did.
If people do that, and so like this is a good book for that.
Now, before we say anything else, I want to mention this. There is a movie based on this book. It came out. I don't know when it came out. 2000 something. I remember we actually went and watched it. Like your dad and I and one or two of my sisters, maybe somebody else in my family. We went and watched it in the theaters. Mm-hmm. I had a migraine.
Oh no!
I didn't really remember that much about it, but I have it now. I own it, and I've seen it. We watched it. Do you remember watching it?
A bit. I just know I didn't really. It was kind of similar, but I didn't really enjoy it.
Well, they did that thing where they're like, "This has to be more exciting because it's a movie," and they added scenes that were not in the book that involved people being almost blown up, and the FBI agent, which we did not mention, but she's kind of a major part of the book.
Is that
who I think so, maybe, who works with. Well, we haven't even mentioned. You did mention the main character's name, right?
I mentioned Kevin.
Kevin. She actually works with him to try to try to find the guy that's doing this. She did actually investigate and do police work in the movie. She just sort of got dragged along.
Yeah.
And my favorite side character in the book, the priest, professor, whatever he was,
preacher,
was barely in the movie.
Huh.
And in the book, he has a pivotal part in the climax that I loved and did not happen in the movie. I was so disappointed. It was very frustrating. It just wasn't as good. And the main character is played by Mark Blucas, who is an actor some people might know. I've seen him in other stuff. I've seen him, I've thought he's a good actor. He was not super great in this, which I have a feeling has something to do with the directing or the editing. But anyway, so book we recommend, movie maybe not so much. Are you crying?
No,
That's how much she didn't like the movie. She's crying.
Something was poking me. I mean, at least if you're gonna watch the movie, just read the book first.
Oh yeah. I can't even imagine watching that movie without having read the book. I just feel like it. There is one thing I will say though. When it came to Greg, it was that part. The reveal of Greg was well done.
Oh yeah.
The acting was good. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
Smart, smart, smart. Off topic, because we are done with the review. What would you say if people? So when somebody asks you what your favorite books are now, what do you say?
Well, it's a little more difficult now because I've read a lot of books I really really like in the last several years, and it's hard for me to say like I feel like I'd have to break it down by genre almost, because a book I really really like that I would consider my favorite within the realm of say middle grade fiction doesn't necessarily compare to adult books.
Oh
Or
yeah.
I would have to say I read a lot of historical Christian romance or historical Christian books that have romance in them. Sometimes the romance is more, front and center, and I don't actually like that as much. But anyway, I have a hard time comparing those to other books like The Oath, which is still my favorite book, I would say. So it's a little bit more nuanced now, but I would probably, if I had to pick one or preferably two, because that makes it a little less difficult, I would probably at this point say The Oath and Project Hail Mary, which was a book I
Not heard
read
about that one.
a few years ago and was I have a hard time sometimes at the end of the year picking one favorite book for the entire year, so I'll just do like a top 10 list. That year, the year I read Project Hail Mary, it was hands down. I did not have a problem saying that was my favorite book of the year. It's by the same, you wouldn't know this, but for anybody listening that would know, it's by the same author who wrote The Martian, which was a movie with Matt Damon, pretty well known. Anyway, but then I would say I would have a hard time not then mentioning, well, for one thing, something else that I seem to always forget is that Frank Peretti has a couple of other books that I like pretty much as I like The Oath, but because they're young adult ones, I just don't mention them as much. That's the Veritas Project books.
Yes, I agree.
And then, when I go over to young adult or teen or even middle grade books, there's Masterminds, When You Reach Me.
I need to read that again.
And that's just a couple I can think of right now that I would say are some of my absolute favorites in their range, in their age group or whatever. So it's harder to just answer that question now. But yeah, I think that if I was gonna just throw out a couple that I don't want to think about it too long or have to go to this long of an explanation, those two are what I would say. What do you have any that you would say right now? One or two that are your absolute favorites?
Oh, that's difficult. I know currently what I would have to.
I didn't say anything.
What'd you whisper?
I didn't whisper anything either. I didn't.
What's your mouth?
I'm not telling you. You tell me what you were about to say.
Currently, my favorite would have to be probably Inheritance Games.
That's what I mouthed.
Because I talk about it so much. I don't know. It's one of those things that it's hard to explain. Just like how you talking about.
Well, you already did explain it.
I mean, I talked about it, yeah, but I feel like I could have said more. I just really wasn't talking that much. But
we should go back and redo the earlier podcast we did because
I was
you
quiet.
got more. I don't know if it's as noticeable to anybody else, but Lena was definitely more quiet and subdued and a little, because she was more uncomfortable in our first few episodes, and then
I was
all
really
of a sudden
scared.
she just woke up and exploded.
After I was sick, yeah.
Yeah, because it got the worst with one of your favorite books.
I know.
Well, there you go. Was that one you would call too?
Oh yeah, it's the fourth book in the Wing Feather Saga. So the
Warden and the Wolf King.
and the Wolf King. So that's Anyway, I think that's probably my two. I'm always fighting with myself when I think about the Inheritance Games being my favorite, because
you'd tell yourself it shouldn't be or something.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just me.
You're just you.
I'm just me. Join us next time when we're gonna be reviewing separate books, 2 books. So separate books. I will be reviewing One Summer on Mackinac by Alana Robin, and she will be reviewing.
She? I have a name.
Christy.
No, it's not.
Mom.
That's weird.
Will be reviewing
Disney After Dark by Ridley Pearson. Until next time, I'm Christy.
And I'm Lena.
And this is Generation Gap Book Reviews.